I have to be honest, these kind of videos really aren't my forte. Don't get me wrong, like anyone even vaguely acquainted with internet culture, I find list videos to be somewhat cathartic when it comes to quantifying and qualifying video games and reviewing the year as a whole. But when it comes to actually creating one myself, it feels like a chore, especially when it comes to trying to translate my opinion and enjoyment of a game into a numbered metric. So, instead of counting down from 10 or 5, I'm just going to spend a little time talking about some games I really enjoyed this year, divided instead into arbitrary categories instead of arbitrary numbers. I shouldn't need to say it, but just in case, remember that this is my opinion and my enjoyment or lack thereof of a particular game has no bearing on your or anyone else's opinion. Also, if a game doesn't appear in this video, I probably haven't played it or haven't heard of it. Sorry. With that out of the way, let's get started. This category came about after my recent experience replaying the Spyro games in the pretty damn beautiful remastered collection. Back in the day I never actually owned a PS1, so my experience with these games was essentially just me sneaking a few hours on my cousin's PlayStation whenever I visited his family's house. It was a very weird experience playing through the first game and seeing something that was vaguely familiar every half hour, since my memory of the games is really fuzzy and it was basically like playing brand new games. The remaster is incredibly well made, and I hope it introduces a new generation to some genre-defining, purely fun and colourful games that were made with love instead of corporate cynicism. Following on from this, in the nostalgia ride, this award also goes to the Shadow of the Colossus PS4 remaster that came out in February of last year. This game is incredible from start to finish, no matter what platform you play it on, but the extraordinary attention to detail poured into this latest iteration of the game, by the always fabulous Bluepoint Studios, is little short of incredible. Seeing images of the original game and the PS4 release side by side is mind-blowing, and it's a stark reminder of just how far we've come over the past decade or so. On top of the game's beauty and vast, breathtaking scope and scale, the tweaks to the HUD, the game's mechanics, and the tidying up of all the small details just make the game not only gorgeous to look at, but far more enjoyable to play, and though this is probably just me, this version of the game also feels far less frustrating than previous versions, as there are far fewer moments where it feels like you're actively fighting the controls. If you've never played this game, I implore you to do so. Shadow of the Colossus is an extraordinary game in any capacity, but the PS4 version is absolutely the definitive edition, and it deserves to be played over and over again. The Hitman games are utterly ridiculous, and I adore them. I've talked about this at length already, so if you'd like a more succinct look at the series overall, there'll be a link in the description to my recent video. I have to say, for a company who have been kicked to the curb as much as IO Interactive have been, they should be proud of themselves for what they've achieved with Hitman 2. Whilst it's clear that they had to cut corners in order to make the game they wanted, with the cutscenes lacking animation being the most notable change, it doesn't diminish the game's achievements at all. Hitman 2's levels are bigger, better and cooler than the previous game by a huge margin. They are absolutely packed with things to do and see, with innumerable possibilities to finding and dispatching your targets. The amount of things to do in this game and the game's overall sense of humour about it is phenomenal. To quote King K, this is a game that takes itself very seriously, but everyone else seems to be in on the joke. Absurdly fun and endlessly replayable, Hitman 2 is a fantastic game, and IO Interactive should be proud of their accomplishments, despite everything that they've been through. You know, of all the games I've played and all the videos I've made so far, my video explaining why I like Kingdom Come so much is the one that has garnered the most negative attention. Which is completely baffling, considering that I spent much of the video explaining that a lot of my initial problems with the game were down to my own ignorance rather than through any fault of the game itself. People are really defensive about Kingdom Come, and it's frankly pretty wonderful. Kingdom Come is not a perfect game. It's pretty glitchy on the PS4, which is the version that I played, and it is very difficult to get to grips with since it requires actual time, patience and investment to master the controls and the mechanics, but once you do get into the swing of things, it's an incredibly rewarding experience. Add to that the game's dedication to realism and the loving recreation of 15th century Bohemia, This is one of the most interesting RPGs to be released in a long while. Whilst many other RPGs are stagnating in a cesspool of samey mechanics, samey stories, and samey visuals, Kingdom Come eschews the trends of the current generation and forges its own path, taking the player on an adventure that they will not forget in a hurry. Yakuza is a series that I only recently got into, and whilst I can't technically name any of the games as Game of the Year, since although I own all but one of the games, I only started the series this year with Yakuza 0, I still want to give a shout out to the series in general. I'm very slowly making my way through this series, so it'll be a while before I reach the conclusion of Kiryu's story in this year's Yakuza 6 Song of Life, or rather last year's Yakuza 6 Song of Life. I'm just going to leave that little gaff in there. But even so, Yakuza 0 has given me an awesome taste of things to come. From the over-the-top combat to the over-the-top boss fights, the fantastical minigames, the variety of shops, restaurants and clubs available, the fact that punching someone gives you money, Yakuza 0 has been such a fun ride so far that I want to at least give the series some recognition for being so utterly absurd, despite having an engaging, genuinely affecting story. To be honest, the most unrealistic thing about Yakuza 0 is the fact that it's actually possible to win things from the crane machines. When I say surprise, I don't mean it was a surprise this game came out. I mean I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I've not really talked about this before, but Red Dead Redemption is a game that I've attempted to play multiple times but never finished. Whilst I appreciate the game's design, its story and certainly its main character, there always comes a point in Rockstar games where I just don't want to carry on, whether it be out of boredom or due to getting distracted by other games. I'm not saying that the games are bad, far from it. Rockstar games are visually enthralling, the worlds are huge and there is always a ton to do. They are well made and reflective of the company's deep pockets, but they just don't do much for me personally. So when I say I was surprised by how much I enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't mean that I expected it to be a bad game. As soon as the game was announced, I fully expected that it would be a beloved game, showered with 10 out of 10s, Game of the Year awards, so on and so forth. I put off getting Red Dead for a long while because past experience with Rockstar Games told me that I would just do the same thing and get bored after a few hours. But surprisingly, I didn't. Whilst the missions aren't always something to write home about, the game itself is gorgeous, extremely easy to get to grips with, and highly enjoyable to just ride around, bust into houses and act like a complete dickweed. Hunting is surprisingly enjoyable as well, with the game taking so much into account when it comes to you seeking the perfect pelt, from the state of the animal to the weapon that you use, and the variety of character customization never detracts from the fact that Arthur is his own unique person, with a backstory you can empathise with, and morals that aren't as evil as the outlaw title would lead you to believe. Whilst I do have some problems with the game, overall, it is a fantastic experience that I would definitely, heartily recommend. Let's just get this said, Subnautica is amazing. It was released from early access this year, and the full release was my first foray into the game. I had no idea what I was getting into, had seen and heard very little about the game other than the high scores and thorough recommendations, but damn am I disappointed with myself for not getting into this game sooner. It's a gorgeous, fully realised survival style game with resource management and base building, a combination that would normally make me cringe, but the game's use of its impressive, diverse map, rich with a variety of biomes, creatures, hidden areas and much, much more, makes it stand head and shoulders above its competition. Subnautica has 4 modes of play: full survival, where you manage your food and water intake, freedom mode, which removes those survival elements, hardcore mode, where the game ends when you die, and creative mode, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's also compatible with VR headsets, and though I do own an Oculus Rift, I've not tested it with Subnautica, mostly because VR makes me feel ill, which is always enjoyable. Regardless, Subnautica is due to receive a Sub-Zero expansion at some point this year, so if you're hankering for something a little different from your average survival game that was actually finished before it was released from early access, then you should absolutely give this game a shot. Even if you don't much care for the story or the game's deep if well-hidden lore, the base building alone is highly enjoyable, and there's nothing more satisfying than decorating your own underwater bedroom. Spider-Man was really good. Everybody already knows that Spider-Man was pretty good, right? We're all relieved that it was actually decent, hence the name of the award, although it did take cues from Arkham City when it came to the game's combat, and honestly, what game hasn't recently? Spider-Man has, like Hitman 2, clearly been made with love and reverence for the series and its fans. As cliche as it is to say, it really does do a fantastic job of making you feel like Spider-Man, and though there are problems with the game, some of the side quests feel repetitive or oddly arbitrary, and the constant interruptions to play as another character were interesting to begin with, but for me personally they quickly wore out their welcome. It is finely balanced out with wonderfully smooth gameplay, a wealth of character, particularly in its protagonist and Yuri Lowenthal's excellent acting, and a truly affecting story that is easily one of my favourite superhero stories of recent times. And like the title of this award says, I'm just glad it was good. I quite liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey. A lot more than Origins, which I've made no secret about not especially enjoying before, and I liked Odyssey enough to platinum it as well, so there was that. I also quite liked Vampire, even though it absolutely had a ton of problems. Neither of these are Game of the Year contenders necessarily, but this award is for games that I found to be deeply flawed but still very much enjoyable. So yeah. No, Agony, I have no desire to buy you again, even if you claim to have been fixed and the audience seems to be much happier with the new version. Fool me once and all that jazz. What the hell happened with We Happy Few? Oh yeah, that happened. I couldn't really think of anything else other than to quickly mention that I did start Monster Hunter World, but haven't played much of it, so I'm not sure what I think of it so far. And if you're curious about my opinion on God of War, the best thing to do is to watch Cadicarus's video on the game and pretend it's me talking, as that video basically says everything that I would want to say about the game. Finally, I've seen Celeste and The Messenger on a lot of people's GOTY lists, but I haven't played either of them, so sorry. Last thing I want to say is thank you for the continued support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. In the meantime though, happy 2019, and I wish everyone all the best for the coming year.